Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. This is the final part of our series looking at every Formula 1 driver who also competed in the DTM. Part 4. So make sure you go back and watch the first 3 parts before this one. We haven't just got another 14 drivers, not 15, but 17 more drivers who have raced in both series. That takes us to a total of 59. Jack Aitken is the 59th Formula 1 driver to race in DTM. We need just one more to get to 60. So anyone who has raced in Formula 1 want to make an appearance in DTM in 2024? I'll even take the likes of Sergei Sirotkin, Pastor Maldonado, or God help us, Jolyon Palmer. Maybe one day in the future we'll come back and talk about the 60th driver to race in both series. But for now, make sure you subscribe and let's jump into the video. Heinz-Harald Frentzen. In 1989, Heinz-Harald Frentzen tied on points with Michael Schumacher in the German F3 Championship. They finished second and third behind Karl Wendlinger. While Schumacher went on to have the career he had, Frentzen would join Wendlinger at Sauber in 1994, but his time in Formula 1 was longer and way more successful. After 3 years with Sauber, he would go on to finish second in a Williams in 1997 and third in a Jordan in 1999, with 3 Formula 1 wins to his name. Sadly, as the new millennium took hold, Frentzen would drop down the grid with Jordan, find himself at a dying Arrows team, and finish his time in Formula 1 back at Sauber. He joined DTM the year after in 2004, spending 2 years in an Opel and 1 in an Audi. He scored a few podiums but no wins. He was meant to race in the old DTM in 1993, but for whatever reason is listed as a did not start at the final 2 races at Hockenheim. Hans-Joachim Stuck. One of the earliest DTM entries on this list. In fact, he may possibly be the earliest. He even raced in the Deutsche Rennsport Meisterschaft, a sort of predecessor to DTM. Stuck was a capable Formula 1 driver who never really achieved any success. He raced for March from 1974 to 1976, then Brabham, where he got his best results in 1977, before finishing out his time with Shadow and ATS. More well known for his success in sports car racing, which include 2 Le Mans wins and 7 podiums, as well as a sports car championship in 1985. He first raced in DTM in the inaugural season in 1984, but returned in 1990 with Audi and won the championship. He finished 3rd overall in 1991 and did half a season in 1992. He did a few races in the DTM Classic Series in 2022, 53 years after his motorsport debut. Michele Alboreto. It's a shame Michele Alboreto is no longer with us. He joined Tyrrell in Formula 1 in 1981 and took the famous team's final Formula 1 wins, before getting a drive with Ferrari for the next 5 years. He finished runner-up in 1985 and took 3 wins for the Scuderia. His final few years are spent with Tyrrell again, Larousse, Footwork, BMS Scuderia Italia, and finally Minardi in 1994. A year later he raced in an Alfa Romeo in the DTM and only managed to finish in the points once. He would go on to have success in sports cars before his untimely death. Naoki Hattori. Talk about the highs and lows of motorsport. In 1990, Naoki Hattori won the Japanese Formula 3 Championship. In 1991, he failed to qualify for 2 Formula 1 races for Coloni, and that was his entire Formula 1 career. He went back to racing in Japan, taking regular wins in Formula Nippon and winning the Japanese Touring Car Championship twice in different classes. He also raced in America for a couple of years and raced in the DTM in 1996. Well, he did 2 races in the International Touring Cars in 1996. Jan Magnussen. And now for a more successful Formula 1 and DTM career, and it's not often you can say that about Jan Magnussen. The 1994 British F3 champion made his F1 debut with McLaren, stepping in for Mika Hakkinen, and then spent a year and a half with the Stewart team, only ever scoring a single point. It was in his pre-F1 days that he raced in the DTM for Mercedes in 1995, and he was actually pretty good, finishing 2nd at the Alemanring and 8th overall. He won races in the International Touring Cars, finishing runner-up in 1995 and 10th overall in 1996, and he is now an experienced GT racer. Jochen Mass. Another sports car supremo, but Jochen Mass was also a Formula 1 race winner. After retiring from 10 races out of 13 with Surtees in 1973 and 1974, he joined McLaren and won the 1975 Spanish Grand Prix, taking 8 podiums in 3 years and playing backup to Emerson Fittipaldi. He later raced for ATS, Arrows and March, and has won at Le Mans. He was the final Deutsche Rennsport Meisterschaft champion in 1985, and he did a few DTM races in 1991 for Mercedes, but never competed in the series full time. The man was still racing historics in his mid-70s. Ricardo Zonta. The Brazilian won the 1997 International F3000 Championship and was teammate to Jacques Villeneuve at the new BAR team in 1999. He stayed for 2000, but the team's first couple of years were very much learning years, and he only scored a few points. He made a few substitute appearances, first for Jordan in 2001 and then Toyota in 2004. He raced in 2 International Touring Car Championship races in 1996 for Mercedes and has been racing in Brazil for the last 17 years and still is in 2024. Stefano Modena. A great driver who never really got a stroke of luck in his Formula 1 career, and Stefano Modena is a lot better than the results he got. He had a dreadful season with Eurobrun in 1988, spent a couple of years struggling with reliability at Brabham, really shined in the first half of 1991 with Tyrrell, before spending his last season with Jordan. Leaving Formula 1 with the sour taste of disappointment on his tongue, he made a few appearances in DTM in 1994 for Alfa Romeo, winning his first 2 starts at Avis, his only DTM wins. He raced in DTM and the International Touring Cars in 1995 and 1996, and even returned in an Opel in 2000, not with any real success. He retired from motorsport shortly after. Timo Glock made his start in Formula 1 all the way back in 2004 with Jordan. He didn't get a full-time seat until 2008 with Toyota. Whilst he got a couple of podiums, he didn't really have any real success, and he spent the next 3 years with the Virgin Marussia Manor team at the back of the field, and left Formula 1 to race in the DTM with BMW. He took 5 wins in his 7 years, but never finished higher than 5th in the championship, which he did twice in 2018 and 2020. In 2021, he finished 17th, and that was his final full season, making a couple of appearances in 2022. Christian Danner. The German would be involved in Formula 1 as late as 2007, but began his time with Zakspeed in 1985 after winning the International F3000 Championship. He'd raced for Osella and Arrows in 1986, taking his first point, and rejoined Zakspeed in 1987 for an absolutely dire season. His final season was with Real and finished 4th in Phoenix for his best Formula 1 result. The year between his seasons with Zakspeed and Real was spent in the DTM, winning 2 races in his Alpina BMW M3. The next few years were spent with part-time DTM drives, returning to the season full-time in 1993. He spent the next few years with Alfa Romeo, taking a couple of wins in 1995. Amazingly, he returned to Formula 1 with Jaguar in 2001 as a test driver, and 2007 with Super Aguri. Alexander Wurz. 1996 and 1997 were exciting times in the Wurz household. In 1996, he raced in the International Touring Car Championship in an Opel, scoring regular points but nothing outstanding. He also happened to win for 24 Hours of Le Mans for the first time, and in 1997, he made his Formula 1 debut with Benetton. He had an exciting few years, big crashes and a podium. He stayed with Benetton as they drifted down the grid until 2000. He made an appearance for McLaren in 2005 and raced a full season for Williams in 2007. He has since won at Le Mans for a second time and taken a few wins with Toyota in the World Endurance Championship. His son is now on the path to Formula 1. Alessandro Nannini. The younger brother of Italian singer Gianna Nannini, Alessandro Nannini formed a long relationship with Minardi, firstly in European Formula 2 and then Formula 1 in 1986. Despite spending 2 seasons with the Italian backmarkers, Nannini never scored points for Minardi and moved to Benetton for 1988. With Benetton, he became a top driver, taking several podiums and finishing in the top 10 in the next 3 years, taking his only Formula 1 win at the 1989 Japanese Grand Prix. Sadly, he was involved in a helicopter crash, which ended his time in Formula 1 and cut him down in his prime. He carried on racing for a few years, including in the DTM, taking wins with Alfa Romeo, finishing 4th overall in 1994 and 3rd overall in 1996. He raced almost entirely for Italian teams, except for a few appearances in Porsches and Mercedes. Giancarlo Fisichella. A real steady hand for a lot of Formula 1 teams, Fisichella managed to survive in Formula 1 for 14 years. He made his DTM appearances before his Formula 1 career, racing for Alfa Romeo in 1995 and 1996, getting several podiums and finishing 6th overall in 1996. He started his time in Formula 1 with Minardi, but quickly went on to Jordan, and then Benetton, and then back to Jordan. He took a shock win at Brazil in 2003, the final Jordan win in Formula 1, and spent time with Sauber, then Renault, helping them win the Constructors' title alongside champion Fernando Alonso. He finished up his time in Formula 1 with Force India, and then stepping in for a last few races for Ferrari. a dream move for any Italian. He has since gone on to various sports car and GT successes. Dieter Quester. It shouldn't be a surprise that the long-time BMW employee raced for BMW in the German touring car series. Dieter Quester had a single Formula 1 race with Surtees and then went on to race in almost everything else, almost always in a BMW. He raced in the DTM between 1988 and 1991, always in a BMW, and he took a few podiums and regularly scored points. He has since retired from racing in 2018 at the young age of 79. Alex Albon. Alex Albon never deserved to get turfed out of Formula 1 in the first place, but it did mean he got to spend a season in the DTM. He took a win in the AlphaTauri sponsored Ferrari and finished 6th overall. His time in Formula 1 prior to that DTM drive was with AlphaTauri and Red Bull, but since his single season in DTM, he has returned to Formula 1 with Williams and become hot property, with many teams expressing an interest in his services. His 27 points for Williams in 2023 is the most for any Williams driver since 2017, and the son of former BTCC privateer Nigel Albon looks to have a bright future in the sport. Ralf Schumacher. One of the many Schumachers to race in the DTM. Just wait for Mick to get a drive, because Michael, Ralph and David have all had DTM seats. Ralf Schumacher began his time in Formula 1 with Jordan, taking a few podiums before a successful run with Williams that saw 6 wins in 6 years. He left Williams for Toyota and stayed with the Japanese team until 2007, finishing between 4th and 6th in the championship every year between 1999 and 2003. He also finished 6th in the championship for Toyota in 2005. After leaving Formula 1 behind, Ralf Schumacher would spend the next 5 years in the DTM with Mercedes, but he did not find it easy, never winning a race and having to settle for a few podiums. He retired from racing after finishing 17th overall in 2012. Jean Alesi. Our final driver is French legend Jean Alesi. He was a shining light for Tyrrell in 1989, earning a full drive for 1990. He got a couple of podiums and would be the final Tyrrell driver to score more than 10 points in a season for the once great British team. He got a big move to Ferrari for 1991, although Ferrari were not in a good place at the time. Alesi would stay with the Scuderia until after the 1995 season, taking his only Formula 1 win. In 1996 he raced for Benetton and would get his best championship finishes, 4th place in 1996 and 1997. After that he started to slip further down the field, first with Sauber, then the disastrous Prost team, and finally a few races for Jordan at the end of 2001. He then raced in DTM in 2002, taking his first win at Donington Park, and would go on to take 5 wins in his 5 DTM seasons, finishing in the top 5 in 2002 and 2003. He has since retired from motorsport, never accomplishing what he should have in his motorsport career. So they were the last 17 drivers we have looked at to have raced in both Formula 1 and the DTM. Who were your favourites? Any future drivers who might come from the DTM to Formula 1? Or will any former Formula 1 drivers make a start in DTM in the near future? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more motorsport content, including Formula 1 reviews, predictions, car wars and one race wonders. Thank you very much for watching and have a good one.